Welcome to the Tuesday, January 12th, 2021 regular school board meeting, which I now call to order. The invocation this morning will be by Pastor Bob Martin from the St. Paul United Methodist Church, and I believe he will be joining us via Zoom. It will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. The National Anthem will be performed by Osceola Fundamental High School Chorus under the direction of John Campbell. So will you please stand for each of those items? Is Pastor Martin online?
I'm online. Thank you, Chairwoman.
There you go. Thank you.
All right, let us pray. Loving God, it is no secret that we live in troubled times. Many are reaching a breaking point. The global pandemic that continues, a nation divided by politics, social injustices still occurring, which remind us that we must continue to work for that more perfect union. Things of this world are contributing to our losing sight of the royal law, where we are called to love you with everything there is about us and to love our neighbor as ourselves. We no longer wish to live in an anxious world, but strive to be light within its darkness. Let the work begin today with our school board. Empower them to lead our community into decisions that create unlimited opportunities for all of our students, as well as decisions that honor and inspire the hardworking staff. Your work in us is not complete. In fact, it has only just begun. And I ask that you humble us this day as we live out the words of the prophet through this question. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red bells were singing there. It proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Osceola High School Chorus, and thank you, Pastor Bob Martin, for the invocation. Mrs. Long will not be with us today, so all of our business action will reflect a 6-person vote, and we will hope that she will be able to join us next meeting. At this point, we will have a video about our Support Employee of the Year recognition. Our last meeting, we introduced our Teacher of the Year finalists, and they were fantastic. But we could not run a successful school district without the myriad of employees who support our teachers and students, such as classroom assistants, school nurses, food and nutrition staff, bus drivers, plant operators, bookkeepers, secretaries, and the list goes on and on. Recently, we named our top finalists for the District Support Employee of the Year. So let's see them now.
Hi, my name is Pamela Clark. I'm a food service specialist here at Jameson Elementary.
I nominated Ms. Pam for Support Employee of the Year because of the time and dedication that she gives to our children and to our families and to our staff on a continual basis, day in, day out.
I just love kids all around. Like, I always just want to be there for the kids, so I try to make sure they get the best meal that they can while they're here during school hours. I try to go above and beyond for them.
Whenever we have an event, she goes above and beyond to make sure that everyone enjoys that event, down to decorating and making sure that when we have experiences, it's a true experience.
I hope people see the potential I have in me and the goodness I have in me, because I try my best to put it out there so they can notice it. I'm here every day. I even try to stay after a little bit if they need help with activities or even events that goes on. I stay without no hesitation. I just love what I do.
She is an amazing employee and definitely will represent Pinellas County Schools well.
Hi, I'm Brandy Mackey, licensed practical nurse at Sutherland Elementary.
When you think about the characteristics of a support employee, someone that really has true grace and compassion for her job, she epitomizes that. In a year like this, her star shined a little bit brighter because of the situation that we're in, and she really rose to the occasion of alleviating stress and trying to support not just our families, our kids, our staff. It was a large undertaking, and she just made it so relaxed and easy to ask for questions, and she was just a natural choice.
I hope people see that I'm dedicated and I'm willing to continue helping. I set an example by always doing the right thing even when no one's watching. That's my motto.
There's so many things that stand out about Brandy, but it's her heart. She truly is one of the most sincere people that you'll ever meet. I think Brandy really is the model Pinellas County Schools employee, one that believes in the district, that believes in the work that we're doing, and it's not just lip service. She shows it every day, day in and day out.
Hi, I'm Dottie Skonecki, and I'm the HPO here at Blanton Elementary. Really pretty much anything they need me to do, I take care of just as quickly as they ask me to do it. And having a good relationship with everyone, that really makes for your job to be, a good one and a positive one.
Dottie does an amazing job, everything from gardening to just being a resource and a support for students, and in these times making sure that our campus is safe as well as secure. She's well loved here at Blanton.
I remain positive in all situations, and this year's been a little stressful, but I just remain positive through it, and that's what gets me through.
Dottie is such a great example of what we want to show the district and the state and the nation and the world of what we have here in Pinellas County Schools.
Hello, my name is Theo Tran. I'm a bilingual assistant at Rawlings Elementary School.
What stands out the most about Mr. Tran is his love and his passion to be an educator. He puts every ounce of his heart and soul into helping our scholars learn, and he loves to see the success in our scholars every day.
I'm a true believer that if I want my students to do the best, I have to be the best. I think that my job is to help people. I want to inspire my students. I'm trying to help as much as I can, and I feel like that's what we need in the world.
Mr. Tran adds light and love to our school every single day. He walks into the room and you can't help but smile. And he gives everything he has emotionally to be a part of our school moving forward.
I'm Yolanda Simmons, and I'm a secretary for the Medical Magnet Program at Osceola High School.
The Boca Ciega High School nominated Yolanda Simmons for just a multitude of reasons. This lady is a firecracker. She's good at everything she does. You know, you think of a typical support position or clerical position, you'd say, you know, what are your roles, what are your responsibilities? Well, take that and multiply it by about 10, because that's really what she does. She's in here on weekends for testing. She's doing things in the evening with sports. She's progress monitoring, academics, and attendance for children as well, in addition to supporting the multitude of teachers and folks in the medical office. Incredible talent.
So the most important thing to me about my job is my students. I'm just all about education, all about ensuring the kids get what they need and be successful in their life. I try to be the leader, so I always make sure I carry myself in the most respectful way I can. And that helps them, you know, say, hey, I can do and be the same thing.
What stands out about Miss Simmons has got to be her energy, right? I mean, our kids gravitate towards and flock towards people with positive energy, and she emulates that. Her commitment to children and her passion to do the right thing is just, it's something that you can't hire that quality. You just either have it or you don't. And so we're blessed to have her as a part of our team.
And I'm happy to announce that Mr. Tu Tran, the classroom support employee from Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings Elementary School, was named the District Support Employee of the Year in a virtual ceremony on Friday. Congratulations to Mr. Tran. We know you will represent the district well in the statewide competition. All right, we will now ask Isabella Mascarena, our Public Information Officer, to introduce the professional and community organization representatives. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego, and staff. It is my pleasure to introduce the following representatives of community and professional organizations. From the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, PCTA, Nancy Velarde, President. From the Pinellas Arts for a Complete Education Coalition, who is attending virtually, Rondi Hiliso, Associate Director. Members of the media who are in attendance here on school property are Nico Clemens from News Channel 8 and also a representative from Bay News 9. Today, we have a presentation from the Student Rights and Responsibility Committee. Please welcome students Avery Dressback, Sandy Kao, and Rylan Soto from Osceola Fundamental High School and their principal, Michael Bonet.
Good morning. My name is Avery Dressback. I'm in 12th grade, and I'm excited to share the great academic attributes at Osceola, the only full fundamental high school in the state of Florida. We offer an array of paths for students on their way to their diploma. For example, our AP classes. We have 26 options to choose from and are working our way to 28. Not only do these exceptional classes offer students an opportunity to see college rigor, but give them a chance to earn college credit, which they automatically receive if they score a 3 or above on the exam. Dual enrollment is also a great way to get a jump start on college education at Osceola. By taking actual college courses, students can graduate high school and receive their AA degree at the same time. Osceola also offers an AP Capstone Diploma, which is a program that strengthens students' research and analysis skills, and has 2 Academies of Distinction, CTED, our Center for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and Culinary. I've personally taken a variety of AP classes at Osceola and have always appreciated that even as a freshman, students are encouraged to take AP. My freshman year, I took our amazing AP Human Geography program, and it showed me the standard I am expected to meet and how to manage studying, learning, and succeeding in a college course. I feel fortunate to have had such great academic opportunities at Osceola Fundamental High School, and I'm proud to say that we have a graduation rate of 99%. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rylan Soto, and I'm a 12th grader at Osceola Fundamental High School. At Osceola, we have 8 honor societies, such as National Honor Society, Science National Honor Society, and Mu Alpha Theta. Through Mu Alpha Theta, we tutor students after school, helping them learn at any level of math rigor. I personally am involved in 5 honor societies, which gives me the opportunity to volunteer and help other students succeed at my school. Osceola also provides a wide range of after-school clubs and activities, such as Academic Team, Key Club, and Future Business Leaders of America. As one of the 84 members in FBLA, you gain the opportunity to compete at the district, state, and national level. For the past 9 years, our school has competed at the national level, winning a few national awards in the process. Personally, I've competed at the state level 2 times since my freshman year. Through FBLA, I've learned leadership skills, proper business etiquette, and a broad range of life skills to help me succeed in college. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sandy Gao. I'm a 12th grader at Osceola, and I'm here to talk about the athletics at Osceola. Osceola Fundamental is part of the Florida High School Athletic Association, featuring a full variety of JV and varsity sports. In the past, we have had 6 district championship teams. Even with this pandemic going on, we are still getting the opportunity to showcase our athletic abilities. Many of our sports have been able to do a senior night and have a crowd of people. Especially being a senior and having experience on the varsity volleyball team, I am very grateful for having a fun last year, and a big thanks to Mr. Bonet for setting up everything. We are not only successful in sports, but also education. Here at Osceola, we provide many educational classes. We have classes talking about sports and classes learning about sports. I personally love taking these classes because being involved in other sports makes us all connected with each other and making our school a big, happy family. I would like to thank you guys and my classmates for listening to us, and thank you, Mr. Bonet, for helping us with everything.
Thank the students that were here, and Mr. Bonet, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. I'm Mike Bonet. I'm proud principal of Osceola Fundamental High School, and we really appreciate this opportunity to showcase our school and talk about all the great things that are occurring at Osceola Fundamental High School. I just want to give thanks again.
Thank you for all you're doing, and students, thank you very much for sharing the many, many opportunities that students have at Osceola Fundamental. And I think we could applaud each of them and say, wonderful job. Thank you. You know, it's kind of scary to talk to the school board, whether it's in person or whether it's via Zoom, and I think Zoom adds another layer of discomfort. So they did an excellent job.
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt.
Yep.
We'd like to let you know, we also have representing the Pinellas Educational Support Professionals Association, or PESPA, Nelly Henez.
There you go.
Also.
Good, thank you. And welcome to all of you. We now move to the amendments to the agenda. Dr. Grego, do you have any amendments?
I have 3 amendments to the agenda. The first is 7.7, amending on page 7, the change in the status, and that change is due to the retirement of Mr. James Squires. The recommendation was accepted to accept his retirement on page 10, effective January 11th. So this is a switch from the initial recommendation. The second amendment to the agenda is that I will be pulling 8.2, and it's no problem with the pulling of it, but after reviewing and talking with Chief Williams and Mr. Herbeck, I just feel more comfortable. And I also want to thank Board Member Edmonds for her conversation with me, and I think it's a prime example of the communications between board and staff, but just more comfortable to have the opportunity to communicate with community members. And Chief Williams and myself and others will be going out to NAACP, COQUEBS. There's no significant change in this, but I think it's a great opportunity for us to talk from a more historical point of view how we got here. This board has 2 memorandums of understanding. One was established in 06, the other was established in 14 when I was superintendent here because of the alarming rates of arrest, specifically in African American students. And so we've got ahead of that. And so as we look at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas and statutes and laws that were really the catalyst that brought these 2 memorandum of understanding together into one. I want to thank David Kapersky, Lori Dart, and even Heather Wallace when she was here, because they went through that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act line by line to ensure this board is in compliance with every aspect of the law. Tomorrow, Chief Williams and Sheriff Galtieri will be discussing this memorandum of understanding with all of the chiefs of police in the entire district. And I just think it's good to have all that conversation, not only tomorrow, but in future weeks. And certainly I'll be bringing it back. But thank you for your support. Thank you for your review of this. And thank you for your feedback. The third amendment to the agenda is the request that we did add the adoption of the proposed Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards, the 2021 legislative program that you'll be looking at, and that's 8.4, and that will remain that number. So we'll be discussing that at the non-consent agenda. That concludes the amendments.
Okay, did you mention the 7.7 and the?
I did.
Okay,
yes.
I missed it already.
Yeah.
So as chairman, I find good cause to include the items that Dr. Grego mentioned for the amendments. Are there board members? Are there any items that need to be pulled? Dr. Carr?
Item number 7.13, our purchasing under consent.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I would then entertain a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Do we have a motion? Mr. Dudley, do we have a second? Okay. Will Ms. Kane second it? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. And it passes 6-0. All right, our next item is a proclamation designating January 2021 as National Mentoring Month. Do we have a motion to adopt the proclamation? Okay, Mrs. Kane. Do we have a second? All righty. And Ms. Hine, the second. Dr. Grego?
Yes, I'd like to call upon Dr. Valerie Brim to present this proclamation and also to express our thanks to every mentor out there, especially during this year. I always say if there's ever a year to thank a teacher, if there's ever a year to thank a mentor, it's this year, because the mentoring is still necessary. Mm-hmm. And so, Dr. Brim, I know you're behind me, but if you could please take over.
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Greco, and staff. January is National Mentoring Month. Pinellas County School District is grateful for all the mentors who pivoted to virtual mentoring to continue the needs of the students. Mentoring can create a transformational experience for so many of our students. Mentors guide positive choices, develop critical thinkers, supports academic achievement, and enhances social emotional well-being. The National Mentoring Public Awareness Campaign is led by the National Mentoring Partnerships, the Corporation of the National and Community Service, Harvard School of Public Health, the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention, and United Way Worldwide. Currently, even in this time, there are over 3,200 students who are being mentored virtually and face-to-face by school staff. Lunch Pals, Take Stock in Children, 5,000 Role Models, Girlfriends, St. Pete Promise, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and peer-to-peer mentoring continue to be viable programs for our students. We want to thank our community partners who took on the challenge to mentor our students virtually, such as Seniors in Service, Raymond James, Pinellas Ed Foundation, Juvenile Welfare Board, and many more organizations. Cities and municipalities also joined the challenge. We have received mentoring proclamation from several cities and municipalities. The City of Clearwater, Dunedin, Gulfport, Osmar, Seminole, St. Petersburg, Tarpon Springs, Pinellas County Government, City of Largo, City of Safety Harbor, and North Reddington Beach. The proclamations confirming the importance of mentoring. I also want to commend our school leaders and liaisons who also took the challenge to make this happen. We have some high schools that are serving over 126 students. Some of our middle schools serving at least 60 or more students per month. And a lot of our elementaries are around 60 or more students. So we have people that are taking on the challenges and doing it. Lastly, I want to say virtual mentoring has also birthed a lot more virtual trainings, career conversations that are held virtually with experts and students. And we have developed what we call a mentor coffee hour, in which mentors can gather monthly to discuss different strategies, and they hear keynote speakers about mentoring. We also want to say that our virtual meetings permits our students to discuss so many much more ideas during their session. We've developed toolkits for them to discuss, and so we're very pleased about those pieces. So I just think that our virtual mentoring is moving forward, our face-to-face. We've incorporated in a safe manner, and I want to say that I'm thankful for your support in our programming.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Brim, for your presentation, but I want to thank you and your entire department for everything that you're doing to make sure that our students still are getting the mentoring and the relationship piece that you're able to continue. So thank you very much. Now to read the proclamation, Dr. Carr, would you do that for us, please?
Whereas the goals of National Mentoring Month are to raise awareness of the value of mentoring, recruit individuals to mentor, and encourage organizations to engage and integrate quality mentoring into their efforts. And whereas a mentor is a caring person who is consistently present and who devotes time to a young person to help them discover their personal strengths and achieve their full potential through a structured, trusting relationship. And whereas quality mentoring encourages positive choices, promotes self-esteem, supports academic achievement, and introduces young people to new ideas. And whereas mentoring programs have also been effective in combating school violence and discipline problems, substance abuse, incarceration, and truancy. And whereas research shows that youth who participate in a mentoring relationship are more likely to finish high school and continue on to college. And whereas National Mentoring Month gives us the opportunity to appreciate the staff and volunteers who dedicate their time to quality mentoring programs and celebrate the young people who have found their inner strength with the help of a mentor. Now, therefore, the School Board of Pinellas County does hereby recognize the month of January 2021 as National Mentoring Month and urge that all observe this month by taking time to recognize and acknowledge the impact of mentors in Pinellas County who give so unselfishly of their time and talents so students can be successful.
Good, thank you. Board members, is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we have a motion by Mrs. Kane, a second by Ms. Hines, to adopt the proclamation designating January 2021 as National Mentoring Month. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed, say no. It passes 6-0. Thank you very much. All right, we will now move to comments on public comment on the agenda.
We have one.
Pardon?
We have one more presentation.
Oh, yes, there is. I'm sorry. Presentation of the certification of district-wide accreditation by the Coconut Global Commission.
Yes.
Do we have?
Yeah,
this is a excuse me, presentation. Dr.
Yes,
Grego?
it is. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I want to thank those who involved back in, I think, about 2013, when as a district we decided to move our district into a district-wide accreditation, which is a whole lot of work, but a whole lot of self-examination too, which I found to be extremely positive as districts throughout the United States were able to look and to learn from each other. And we were granted very high status in 2015 for the very first time as Pinellas County Schools earned a district-wide accreditation through Advanced ED. And I am very pleased to announce and I want to introduce Jennifer Dull and Leanna Eisen, who have chaired this work, but also bring to you an update from the Advanced ED, which used to be known as the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Council. You probably recognize both names, but Advanced ED has been their new title for some years now. So I'm going to ask Ms. Dull and Leanna. There you are. Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Grego, community, and staff. It's with great pride we bring forward that Pinellas County Schools has renewed our district-wide, which also means individual school accreditation, through 2024. The name change has happened a couple of times over the year, so it was what people know as SACS, Advanced Ed, and now it is actually known as the Cognia Global Commission. Cognia Global Commission represents unified practices for accreditation, and they have 3 accreditation divisions, some of which you'll recognize: the North Central Association Commission on Accreditation and School Improvement, the Northwest Accreditation Commission, and the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Council of Accreditation and School Improvement, or SACS. These 3 represent 6 of the regionally K-12 accreditation bodies, and together have over 125 years of experience in institutional for K-12 accreditation processes. In order to reach district-wide and school-level accreditation, education providers, districts must meet performance standards, assurances, and policies, have to demonstrate quality assurance through internal engagement reviews, and engage in a continuous improvement process. Our district-wide accreditation means that Pinellas County Schools and each individual school has earned the renewal. This certification is based on rigorous research-based practices and standards, evidence-based criteria, and most importantly, organizational coherence. This means that each school and each as a part of a whole district are committed and continually show growth and commitment to continuous improvement towards our mission and vision. Accreditation is not about a one-time process where people come in. We are in constant contact and the process goes throughout. Rather, accreditation is a sustained commitment to improvement on behalf of student outcomes. So I'm going to ask Leanna Eisen, our Senior Coordinator for Strategic Planning and Policy, to go through kind of our journey, and also want to give her some high praise, as since 2015 she has been instrumental in this district and our schools receiving accreditation at each point along the way.
Good morning.
Good morning. As Jennifer said, we earned district-wide accreditation in 2015. As part of the accreditation process, the external review team identifies strengths, such as our use of the district strategic plan in conjunction with our budget process to set long-range goals and resource allocations. They also identify areas for growth, like enhancing instructional leadership systems and developing district-wide instructional strategies. These areas were added to our district strategic plan in 2015 and continue to be monitored and improved. We engaged in a district-wide progress update in 2017, and the accrediting body recognized our growth as exceeding the international average. The school board, the district, and each of our schools continue to demonstrate outstanding student outcomes and a continuous commitment to progress and innovation. So we are pleased to announce that Pinellas County Schools remains a district in excellent standing, and the Cognia Global Commission for Accreditation has awarded Pinellas County School District with district-wide accreditation through June 30th, 2024. You can look forward to joining me as we begin our reaccreditation process in the fall of 2022. However, today, as a testament to all of the hard work and dedication of each and every school and district staff member, we present to the board our district certificate of accreditation.
Very good.
Thank you so much. You know, given the times, I don't want this to be seen as not a big deal. It is a big deal, and I feel very confident that any press that's here is here because they want to cover this. I think that this is a proclamation to the community that they live in a school district that is receiving a very high level of accreditation. And this doesn't happen overnight. So thank you for the work every day, not just a visitation as was stated. And we're going to continue to. The work begins tomorrow in terms of accreditation for the next 5 years. And it's a constant theme of improvement. And this board has been right on board from the very get-go of our accreditation and our decision to examine ourselves in the closest way possible through a district-wide process like this. So thank you for the board members who initially supported that, but also served on committees. And really the thing I most really enjoy and like about this district-wide accreditation is it sees how top leadership, how the school board and superintendent, how they get along and how they work to support the schools and how every part of the system is working together for student achievement. And that hierarchy is so important. It's not just accreditation of a high school, but rather an entire school district. So thank you to each of the board members here for your support of our accreditation process.
Absolutely. And I can attest to how rigorous this whole thing was. I was very, very much involved with the first one, and it is every layer, every level of functioning in the district. And not only is each area doing what they should be doing, it's are they doing it together, and are the things working succinctly. And so it is a very interesting thing to go through. I'm glad we did it. It made our district stronger, but I am thrilled to death that we are able to continue to say that we have a very strong district, that all aspects of our district have been scrutinized, and we are, in fact, very, very proud of all of our staff and everybody involved, from the district level to the school level and to the board. We're very, very pleased. So thank you very much for the recognition, and thank you for being here to help deliver it today. We appreciate it. All right, now we're going to go to public comment on agenda items. My mouth is not working today. Members of the public have 3 opportunities to address the board when we gather for a meeting. The first opportunity is to speak during public comments on agenda items. The next opportunity is when the public hearings, most of which are for policy that we do. Lastly, after the meeting is adjourned, we will remain for public participation when speakers may address the board on any business pertaining to the district. During public comments, board members are here to listen. This is not a time to discuss or debate. We will not take any formal action on information brought forward unless it's pertaining to agenda items. However, the board and the superintendent may refer you to proper staff in order to help work through a process or a concern that you may have. The board is committed to a standard of civility and decorum in the conduct of our meetings. Please assist us in maintaining a civil, constructive environment by confining your comments to the business of the district and refraining from intemperate or rude comments. Thank you very much. Ms. Simonetti, are there speakers to items on the agenda?
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have no speakers today on specific agenda items.
All righty, good, thank you. Then we will move on to our new business. We have a public hearing to consider amendments to policy 5430, class ranking. This is a second reading, and so I will ask for a motion, a second, and a presentation by Dr. Grego, and then we'll come to any speakers we may have. Is there a motion? Mr. Dudley? Okay. Do we have a second? And that was Ms. Edmond, Mrs. Edmond. All righty. Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair and board members, this is an adjustment to the class ranking policy. I'm going to ask Ms. Dull, Jennifer Dull, and Dr. Vasquez, who I believe is also here, to just review for the board. And also, I will always let the public know that this board really reviewed this policy change extensively at our most recent workshop.
Good, thank you.
So, Ms. Dull?
Good morning, Madam Chair, board
Good.
members, Dr. Grego, staff, and community. Today, we bring for second reading a public hearing to consider the amendment to our policy 5430 class rank. The changes included within this policy are more of a clarification for the honors and awards for summa, magna, cum laude, and with distinction. It makes the GPA to 2 decimal points rather than 1. This also aligns with how parents see GPAs for their students in focus. So there's not going to be a discrepancy between what parents see and what what constitutes a distinction. The other part of the policy that is changing is a taking out of that honors will be mailed to students. Our processes have far exceeded this, and in fact, at graduation, students receive those honors. So with that, we bring forward for second reading and vote for approval these policy changes within policy 5430.
All righty, thank you. And this is an example of the public hearings. Do we have any speakers to this item?
Members and Dr. Grego, we have no speakers on this public hearing.
All righty, thank you very much. Board members, are there any comments? All right, then we have a motion by Mr. Dudley, a second by Mrs. Edmond, to consider the amendment to policy 5430 class rank. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. It passes 6-0. Our next public hearing is to consider the amendment to policy 5630.01, use of seclusion and restraint on students with disabilities. This is also a second reading. And do we have a motion? Mrs. Kane, do we have a second? Okay, Mr. Dudley is second. All right, Dr. Grego, please.
Yes, Madam Chair and board members, this too is a second reading. There's been no changes from the first reading. It is a requirement of the State Department of Education by law, but also want to ask Ms. Dull and Ms. Mowat, who is head of our Exceptional Student Education Department, to make any comments and review. And again, to the public, this board very closely reviewed this and was presented at our last workshop.
Very good, thank you. Mrs. Dull?
So policy 5630.01, use of seclusion and restraint on students with disabilities, is a policy that we bring forward following the approval by this board of the ESE State Policy and Procedure Guide. When that gets reviewed by the state and approved by the state, it then comes to the board for approval. Out of that process, the state noted that we needed to update some of our policies within our seclusion and restraint policy. So what you will see as amendments within this are a minimum of 2 members must be observing when a student is isolated in the seclusion area. Any restriction of free movement or hand, including during a physical escort, is considered restraint. So further definition. That there must be a minimum of 3 staff members when restraint is being used as part of transport to ensure that someone is observing, and that the words mechanical restraint are taken out of our policy, as those are only allowed within an authorized, contracted residential facility. As this policy has a lot of implications for implementation, I'm going to ask Ms. Lynn Mowat to come forward and talk a little bit about how we implement and ensure fidelity to what our policy is stating.
Good, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego, and staff. I do want to provide a few points of clarification specific to this policy. Before doing so, though, I do want to reiterate that restraint and seclusion is only used as a last resort, and it's used when the student is exhibiting a level of behavior that puts that student at risk or others at risk. So again, it's used very minimally, but we do have some very specific processes in place to ensure the safety of the students and the others that are involved in the restraint or the seclusion. So our method of providing training to our staff for restraint is through CPI. The Crisis Prevention Institute has been a nationally recognized training organization for a significant amount of years, and we make sure that our staff is trained in level 1, which is the verbal de-escalation techniques, and that is what we are expecting that they use first, and try to make sure that the student is able to be brought into a calm state in order to be able to access their education. We do have crisis teams that are trained in level 2, and again, those teams are trained as required by CPI. Right now, it's every 2 years, but we do meet with teams if a restraint has happened to ensure that we go over what occurred during that restraint, what occurred prior to, and talk about ways that we can, do some things in place of use of restraint in the future. So we do make sure that our crisis teams practice regularly, so that they are using safe practices. And again, in clarifying our policy, we make sure that we have an appropriate number of staff that are observing, taking data, and making sure that, again, everybody is safe. In regards to mechanical restraint, because I know that that comes up as a question very often, we do not allow mechanical restraint in our schools, and that would be restriction through use of straps or ties or other things that would restrict the student from being able to mobilize. The one thing that we do want to make sure is very clear is that that is very different than things that would be prescribed medically or through physical therapy or occupational therapy, or harnesses on buses for transportation safety purposes. So I hope that clarifies some of those points. And I want to ensure this board that we do look at our data on restraint and seclusion every month. We review the incidents, and then we meet with schools to talk about the incidents, and again, how we can reduce the use of restraint and seclusion in our schools. And one more point of clarification, seclusion is only allowable at our center school campuses.
Good, thank you. Okay. All right, Mrs. Simonetti, are there any speakers?
Public hearing.
All right, thank you. Board members, any conversation? Dr. Carr? Oh, okay. Ms. Edmonds?
There we go. I would like to thank staff for answering my questions as it relates to this policy. Something else that I think is important to share is that at this time, we are not contracted with any residential facilities.
That is correct.
So again, thank you.
Okay.
All right, good, thank you. Any other comments from board members? All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Kane and a second by Mr. Dudley to consider the amendment to policy 5630.01, use of seclusion and restraint on students with disabilities. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. And it passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move to the consent agenda, all items except 7.3. Do we have a motion? Okay. Dr. Carr, did you?
Does Kevin want to talk about this?
What did I say?
If asked, who's?
Well, okay. All except for 7.13. Yeah, okay. So, do we have a motion for the consent agenda? Okay. Ms. Hine? Do we have a second? Okay. Ms. Edmond? Mrs. Edmond? All righty. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. And it passes 6-0. Now we will move to item 7.13, request approval of purchasing items in accordance with bid policies and statutes. Do we have a motion? Okay. Mrs. Kane? Okay. And a second? Okay. Mrs. Edmond? And I'm going to ask Dr. Carr to speak to the item that you're pulling.
I was specifically looking at bid number 21205-151, which is the purchasing of assessments for gifted students. I had concerns, and I brought them up earlier in our previous workshops regarding access to gifted education, and this is to purchase the Naglieri assessment, which was previously, and correct me if I'm wrong, administered in second grade, and it was made, the determination was made to move it into first grade. And while I commend the acknowledgement and recognition for us to assess students earlier, I think because we have invested so much into our full-time gifted, we now have a North, Mid, and South County full-time gifted program. And it begins in first grade. And while I understand that screening students for gifted services, the sole purpose is not to allow access just to full-time gifted, but in fact, all of our schools offer gifted programming. However, our full-time programs begin in first grade. So in order to access them, you have to have been determined eligible for gifted services in kindergarten or in the process of doing it, so that by the time you start school, you have an education plan. So, and we have created another method for entry with a different tiered approach in order to address concerns about potential issues with access. However, our current process, if we only assess students in first grade or second grade, or screen in first and second grade, there may be students who weren't identified. And so as a result, oftentimes what we see in practice is the majority, if not all, of our students who are engaged and enrolled in full-time gifted programming had to have a parent advocate. They had to have someone reach out and pay privately or approach the district to advocate for them to be assessed in kindergarten. And when we talk about access and equitable access, we really want families not to be solely responsible for this. We systemically want to have processes in place that allow access for all of our students. And I feel that we acknowledged it and moved it to first grade, but that wasn't really the point. The point was that we needed it in kindergarten in order to be able to apply for these programs in first grade. So for kids who don't have an advocate, and yes, teachers have the option of identifying the student in kindergarten and they could potentially be placed. But if you don't have an advocate, then you're not going to be eligible for this program. And that's already one of the issues with application programs in general, but it's exacerbated in this area because you didn't know you had to have your child assessed in kindergarten. And about 10 years ago, we did assess all of our students in kindergarten in Title I schools. And there is an assessment for kindergarten, the K-BIT, which is a screener, and then you would follow up with the full battery. So why we would sort of admit that, yes, we need to go lower, but not go low enough to actually provide access, I find problematic. So I do not support and oftentimes it doesn't even come to us because it doesn't cost this much. So sometimes we're not approving this assessment purchase because it's not over the required amount. But this time it happens to be. So I'm not supporting us purchasing a screener for first grade students when I believe fundamentally, because I believe we need to have equitable access for all students, even those who don't have a parent champion. We need to do this assessment, or screener at least, in kindergarten, because the other factor is that the Naglieri is often more highly correlated with verbal acuity, whereas the K-BIT really looks at students and their spatial relationships and their giftedness in those areas. So you potentially, by not screening them earlier, are going to miss kids who would have been identified. So that's my concern. If staff would like to address that issue or anyone else has further discussion, but I do not vote to approve I'm concerned and uncomfortable voting to approve this purchase.
Well, first of all, board members, thank you for your support of gifted education. I think last board meeting, I, as a superintendent in this district, was really hailed as one of those districts across the state that is seen as leveling that playing field with underrepresented students. And Coral Marsh does a phenomenal job of seeking out those procedures and those processes. And there's many ways, there's more than one way. I mean, if you look across school districts in the United States, there's many ways to skin this cat. Coral has worked very hard to establish a more equitable screening process to include underrepresented students, primarily our Hispanic and our African American students, who have grown tremendously in size based on the screening of first grade. I'm not an expert in this area, but I could tell you that we certainly can have this discussion. Certainly don't want to stop the screening in terms of that, and I know that's not what you're asking. But there's pluses and minuses to both. You know, even as a parent, I would never maybe assess my own children in kindergarten because it's just so early. But there's a lot of different viewpoints on this. Let me ask, and it's so hard because I don't know if these people are actually behind me or not.
Yeah.
But let me ask, maybe Mr. Hendrick can share this, and perhaps if the board wants a further conversation and a workshop, we certainly it is a good conversation. It's a healthy conversation. And let me suggest that there's no necessarily absolute right or wrong, but rather a way that the reason why we're getting more and more students underrepresented addressed in all of our gifted programs throughout the district. And to this board's credit, we implemented district gifted education in every single elementary school when I came on board, because it was not acceptable not to have gifted education in every single school. So we've come a long way, and as we grow, let's not forget that the progress that we've made, but certainly this is a worthwhile conversation. Mr. Hendrick?
Okay, Mr. Hendrick?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Grego, and good morning, Mrs. Cook and board members. It is a good conversation. It's one that we've had multiple times, and I've certainly spoken with Dr. Carr about it. One of the biggest reasons that we have chosen the Naglieri and done research on that one versus others is its consistency across time and its national recognition in terms of that. This is one of our strategies for Bridging the Gap, Goal 3, to assess every single student and screen every single student. And in fact, in our Transformation Zone schools, we do it multiple times. The biggest reason that we chose first grade, we did move it from the beginning of second grade to the middle of first grade. We had some concerns from the community and from some parents around teacher familiarity and how the screener was administered, and how when it's with a teacher they've known for quite some time, they're likely to be able to motivate the student a little bit more, explain it a little bit better versus, hey, welcome to school, I'm your teacher, sit down and take this assessment. So the comfortability of being with the teacher, even though now it's online, they're still doing it with their classroom teacher. But the largest reason is that there is a body of research, and that it shows that below the age of 6, that the screeners are not as reliable, particularly when you get to the IQ test, as Dr. Grego sort of referenced. And so to invest a large amount of money in a screener to not have that same reliability is a concern. We want to try to get some level of reliability. We could do it multiple years. It's just another expense. And so when you look at gifted students and the FTE that they produce and the expenses that go into having a gifted teacher at every single school and the other things that come in, could we screen at other grade levels? We could. But there were over 1,200 students who were screened in kindergarten, some of them by parent request, some of them by teacher advocate, some of them for another ESE designation. And so it's about 5,200 that we would screen in first grade. I think it's a good problem to have. It's a good discussion, Dr. Carr. I appreciate you bringing it to us. It's not one that we've looked at lightly or not thought about. There isn't a perfect answer. The perfect answer would be an unlimited amount of funds and screen everybody multiple times, but there's also a concern about over-testing students as well. And how many times do I need to be screened if I'm in the 90th percentile to make it into gifted? So that's where we stand. We have done quite a bit of research on it, made some adjustments. We feel comfortable with it, but I understand Dr. Carr's point And I think I've talked about some other possible solutions to it. But the reason for this test and that age and that grade level, the overwhelming thing is the reliability of testing students who are younger than that. Again, there's some benefits, but there's also some concerns about, is it a fair test in kindergarten?
Yeah, so whereas there's multiple ways to kind of address this issue, I certainly wouldn't want to stop the screening in first grade altogether. And so there are other alternatives. We certainly can have that further discussion.
Okay. Did Mrs. Marsh have anything that she wanted to share?
Is she
I
here?
see her. No? Okay. All right. I didn't know if she was in or.
No, that's Linda Balcom, just
Yeah,
purchasing.
I see her now that
She's
you
happy
moved,
to talk
yeah.
about the logistics, but no, Mrs.
Okay.
Marsh is not here.
All right. Yeah. All I saw was a little bit of a head. Okay, any discussion, board members? Mrs. Hine, Ms. Hine.
Testing, is that working okay? Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to share anecdotally at our one little small elementary school that I've been involved with for a handful of years. One of the first things parents did was advocate for universal kindergarten screening because we felt like there were a number of children who weren't getting that opportunity. We wanted all children to have the opportunity for this kind of learning. And so we did that. We were able to fundraise and fund for the screening throughout kindergarten. The interesting thing is, after a year or two of doing it, discussing it as SAC, discussing it with our teachers and administrators, here again at this one little school, we discussed that actually kindergarten wasn't such a good idea because a lot of the kids who we were hoping to get screened, to get into gifted services, it's their first time coming to school. They hadn't been to preschool. And so there are so many things that their little minds are going through and learning. And so to add this screening, and so we actually moved it to first grade. Again, that's just anecdotal.
Right.
I don't have any research behind that. I'm just telling you what happened at our school. And I guess I would say, I wonder if we could address the K issue. I wonder if we could address it with, just making sure our teachers know, hey, make sure, this is a goal of ours. It's in our Bridging the Gap plan. Make sure you're recommending kids for testing, right? I mean, we can address it by encouraging that. I also would love more discussion. I loved hearing from you about the different kinds of tests and where they and how they impact. And so I certainly would enjoy further discussion on it. I wonder if we could approve the purchase to keep the screening going, to keep the plans for the district in place, but then also the board being able to have additional discussion about what we do in the next school year, perhaps. Is that a possibility?
Oh, yeah. I think you really want to hear from Coral Marsh, who we've hired
Yeah.
as the expert in terms of this area and some of the research at national level, too. And I think it's, as I mentioned before, it's healthy conversation, but I believe she's the person that is moving, that the board needs to hear from.
Any other discussion? Any other, Mrs. Kane?
I also would like to have further discussion on this point. I do think it's very valid and possibly, maybe there's a possibility of moving the testing to the end of kindergarten in the fourth quarter because they're familiar with their teacher. That solves the issue with teacher familiarity, as well as opens up opportunity for going into first grade, especially if we opened up possibly first grade applications over the summer or towards the end of the kindergarten year if they were going to try to apply to the district programming for first grade. Then they would know the results of that test by that time and be able to enter. That's something maybe that could be discussed if that's available or we're able to move it there. That could help with a couple of the issues I'm hearing. But I'd also like to explore testing possibly in other years as well. Some students, as they're coming in, take a while to adjust because maybe they didn't do pre-K, and maybe even looking into second grade testing as they get into the higher levels of elementary school. Some students just take longer to adjust to the formatting. So it'd be interesting to look at what the options are available, and I think have further discussion and possibly a workshop with the board on this.
We would be happy to and share some of that research. Many of the things you all brought up are some of those things that we've looked at. The other part of this is it's not just the screener. The screener is the first part. Then you meet with a school psychologist. If you get through the school psychologist part to be identified, then you have to meet with a gifted teacher to do an EP plan. So it is a whole process that does take several months, particularly when you're doing a district-wide screening all at once. Then you have to go through all of those at the same time. So we'd be happy to share it at a board workshop.
And board members, I want to make sure we all understand, we do testing all grade levels. This is just the universal one where we test everybody. But testing goes on in kindergarten, still to a great degree, in second grade, and third grade, and fourth. I mean, it's all grade level. It doesn't stop. Okay.
Okay. Dr. Carr and then Mr. Dudley.
I think we've had this discussion several times in previous workshops, so I want to acknowledge that. I appreciate your time working on it. I just really want us to also recognize that in order to get into, our full-time and especially the second tier, you really need an advocate. And what we're trying to do is provide access in a more equitable way. And I think if we ask ourselves that question, are we providing equitable access? Is this screener going to put us further along or not? Yes, it will. But I think we would be better served at a younger age in terms of diversity within, and not just ethnic and racial, but socioeconomic diversity within our full-time and other gifted and accelerated courses. So
Okay, good.
I just feel like we've discussed it several times, but maybe we need to provide more evidence, because we've had the discussion of what is the diversity within gifted, how many of our students are different tiered. I mean, there's a lot to it to show. We haven't looked at you have, but I haven't seen our local data on it.
I thought we did, but I will check with Coral Marsh, because I believe that was sent during the last conversation about the diversity of how we've grown as a district based on not only this, but let me go back to another topic that's so important, because it's when you have these conversations, they become fragmented in terms of the context of the entire program, is that we also, in a Bridging the Gap plan, had distinct conversation with kindergarten teachers to identify students underrepresented. So our ability to screen and ability for screening kindergarten went up significantly, including the additional plan that this board approved too, that the State Department approved too. So we have a lot of different measures, a lot of different pieces of this conversation. I feel like really need to be represented well before bits and pieces of it are made to make a decision. But Coral Marsh looks at this thing day in and day out and examines the research across the country, and as well as in our own. So let me ask her to send again, to maybe preface the conversation, the information I think was sent, but let me clarify that, which shows the increase in Black and Hispanic students in this district, because it is part of Goal 3 of Bridging the Gap.
Okay. Mr. Dudley?
My concern is, are we get one side, we have being too young to get anything statistically significant. How young is too young and how old is too old? We get that gap in there. Is statistically speaking, where are we? Is it real important we do it halfway through kindergarten, in that kindergarten, or what is statistics saying on that?
So the research varies on the different types. There are different types of screeners, but the National Association of Gifted Children says that before the age of 6, that the results can be less reliable. And so when you look at students going into kindergarten, age 5, turning 6 at some point, some turn 6 late in the year, some turn 6 in the middle of the year. Everybody, matures at a different rate. So it's not a perfect science in any way, but generally the National Association of Gifted Children says before 6, it's less reliable.
Boy, seems awful young, particularly when you have, even though it's gifted, I'd like to see it maybe a little later, toward the end of kindergarten or the beginning of first, is the way that's why I'm interested in statistically. Statistics can be deceiving, and I'm not sold on all those numbers, but anyway, that's just me.
All right, Dr. Carr, before I call on you again, I'd like to make a comment or ask a couple questions. The purchase that is being requested is going to be used when?
This school year.
This school year, okay. So if we do not purchase it right now, it would have what kind of impact on our students that are scheduled to have the test?
It would delay the universal screening for this school year.
Okay, so nobody would be tested this year?
No, we would do testing, but the universal screening
would not
correct.
happen this year?
Will be halted.
Okay. And I have two comments. One, I think because of that, I would be willing to move this purchase forward to make sure that it is, at least the universal screening is happening this year. If 4 of us have decided that we would like to have a workshop on this, my suggestion would be that we actually talk at our next one exactly what are we asking, so that we're not getting the same information that we received at another workshop. We would be saying, what kind of data are we looking at? What, do we want to seek, the results of tests in other similar districts, whatever, So I would suggest that if the majority would like to do that. But I think I would support the purchase of it now so that we don't lose a year of universal screening. One of the things that I would also want to ask, for example, during the workshop would be, how do kindergartners and first graders get into the gifted centers, and get some of those kinds of questions, because it's not just the testing. It is, there are tentacles that go everywhere, and so I think we need to find what those are. So those are my comments, and then we'll go to Dr. Carr again.
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. So we have a motion by Mrs. Kane and a second by Mrs. Edmond to approve the purchasing items in accordance with bid policies and statutes. All in favor?
Of clarification.
Ms. Hine?
No, just the bid item itself. I understood that Dr. Carr pulled the entire agenda item 7.13. With her acquiescence, I would suggest that Ms. Simonetti and I make the minutes reflect that she is only pulling the one bid related to universal gifted screening. And so if she votes against it, she is approving the rest of the purchasing agenda item.
Okay, you're suggesting then that we vote to approve all of the purchasing items except 212-05151?
No, what I'm suggesting is that we simply accurately reflect that Dr. Carr intended to pull, and the minutes will reflect that she is pulling only the universal gifted screening purchase item on agenda item 7.13.
Okay.
So if she acquiesces to that, which I see that she is doing, and the rest of the board agrees with that, then I would proceed with the vote, and the minutes will simply reflect that Dr. Carr pulled only bid number 21-205-151.
All right. So we will still vote on all of 7.13 because we have not done that yet. And the minutes will reflect that our discussion and the item pulled was the number 212-05151. All right? So all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. All right. So we have a, all right, we have a 5-1 for the entire item. All right, good, thank you. With Dr. Carr voting against. All right, we will go to non-consent. Setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 2470, education of language, English language learners. This is a first reading. Do we have a motion? Okay, Mrs. Edmond, do we have a second? Ms. Hine, seconded. And Dr. Grego.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is a first reading. We discussed this at our last workshop, and some of the changes to the policy of English language learners, one being the change of that title to English learners. And to discuss this, I know that Jennifer Dull is here. Also, I want to thank Dr. Karak for her service as a director of English Language Services, and she was the one that actually did most of the presentation, if you remember, during our workshop.
All right. And Ms. Dahl, maybe just me, but if you could speak real loud, it would be helpful.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning again.
There you go.
Today, on this item, we are setting a public hearing or the first reading for policy 2470, education of English language learners. Now, I know that some of the amendments that are coming forth have to do with ESSA and the changes that were made in the federal policy about how we name English learners. One of the questions we have got, so I want to bring that forward right now, why does the policy on this document still say English language learners? Once you approve after second reading, the policy name will change. So the other parts of the policy that have been updated are including a definition section, because within ESSA, our federal law that governs this work, it has very different definitions of when a student came in, what their English language proficiency are, and then we know that that can become complicated when reading a policy, so we were very purposeful in trying to define what English learners are and at what point in their progression they are within the policy. The other things that have been added are clarification regarding grading requirements and expectations for teachers and students. That's what Dr. Karak went over at workshop and is also here if we would like to state that again at a public board meeting. And we also clarified those expectations by English learner classification. It added and rearranged language to help stakeholders better understand the processes and procedures around supporting English learners. So with that, we do bring it forward for setting the public hearing and moving forward into second reading.
Okay, thank you. Is there any conversation? Board members? All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Edmond. We have a second by Ms. Hine to set the public hearing and authorize the advertising of the public hearing to consider amendment to policy 2470, education of English language learners. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. It passes 6-0. Our next item is to approve the letter of supporting statewide prioritization of school district employees for COVID-19 vaccination and distribution. Do we have a motion? Okay, Mrs. Kane, do we have a second? Mrs. Edmond, we have a second. Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, I want to first of all thank you for your level of support and advocacy, not only for this letter, for the day-to-day work of our district. It's without say that this school district and many districts across this great state of Florida has done remarkable work. Our teachers, our administrators, our support staff, in bringing students back into the school, and that was a priority of this state. And I'll just make a very quick, concise statement and then turn it back over to you, but I truly believe that if we feel and know that our teachers and our support staff and administrators are essential to bringing students and keeping schools open and keeping communities working, then these same individuals need to be prioritized when it comes to providing a vaccine in this state. So that's what this letter from this board states. As you know, the superintendents and I personally wrote one earlier than this, and we just need to keep the good word and keep moving forward with this. So thank you very much on behalf of all of our teachers, our educators, our support staff, our bus drivers, our administrators, the frontline workers of this county for your support and this letter. As you know, this letter will also be communicated and copied not only to the Commissioner of Education, but also to our elected officials in Pinellas County. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Hine?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm speaking in support. Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
they've got it for you. Turn that back on. There you go. They did it for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm speaking in
Sorry.
support of this item. I just wanted to take a moment on this agenda item to share a few thoughts on this topic with you, so please bear with me. Voting yes on this letter seems simple to me. Yes, we send it. Yes, the profession that dedicates itself to the future of this county, this state, this country, and the development of our youth of generations of families, coworkers, and communities to come. Yes, our teachers are essential workers. Yes, we must prioritize them. I don't believe enough people understood that before COVID, and I can tell you that every parent or caregiver that I know that has handled school from home is officially well aware that teaching is a profession to be well respected, a profession that not just anyone can do, a profession that likely began with a calling and every day since has required cultivating commitment and care. Yes, teachers are essential workers. Think about it this way: from whence do the people that you work with, play with, fight for this country with, have families with, build communities with, govern with, uphold our economy with, uphold our democracy with, from whence do they come? Primarily, predominantly, and proudly from K-12 public education. Yes, teachers are essential workers, and not just in COVID times, but in all times. And I pray that this is a lesson that we never forget. I feel compelled to address also, what if the state does not prioritize teachers? And cases have been up from the holidays. What then? Are we going to close schools? There are a number of factors that keep our schools open, and I'll just mention two: funding and families. On funding, our executive orders are clear. They put about a third of our state funding, or $220 million, at risk. That would have a serious impact on learning and on livelihoods. And on families, our students need us. And no, not just to pass a state examination, for so much more than that, for things that are not measured. I spoke recently with teachers who were involved in the distribution of computers to families that needed them for this, virtual learning from home situation. They spoke of parents in cars with multiple kids who would pull up, roll down their window, and crying say, "Please come to our home, help me. I don't know how to do this." I believe that while we're all tired of these measures, we're all tired of the masks, we're all tired of the distancing, that with the vaccination starting, the end of this thing is coming into light. And in the meantime, we must recommit to these measures in our schools and in our own lives. I would ask the following of our community, of Pinellas County Schools leadership and administration: our PPE, the availability and the enforcement. We see in study after study that the protective measures in schools are working. Spread is not happening in our schools. It's happening outside of schools. It's because of our measures. So the supply of PPE must be there. I spoke with Mr. Herbeck this week. I understand that it is, and we've got to keep requesting it from the schools, have to keep requesting it and getting it to them. And then the enforcement of the different measures. I would also say our response to positive cases. I believe we should have a 48-hour response time. Early in the school year, we were quick to respond to positive cases. Then as cases in our community climbed, demand on the Department of Health climbed, it became too much of a lag in response. So I thank Dr. Grego and Ms. O'Toole and our Department of Health for working to staff 2 DOH people here in the building full-time to provide quicker response to positive cases. Also, I hope that we are thinking creatively about space. At all of our individual schools, are we optimizing space that's available? Gymnasiums, media centers, locker rooms, conference rooms. Are we going outside? Do people need portable, stackable benches or something to be outside to help with the distancing? I certainly wish we could enter into agreements with other space holders in this community, like YMCAs, community centers, parks, performing arts spaces. Though I recognize the logistical difficulties of this, primarily with transportation in such a large district with a myriad of choice programs. For our Pinellas County school staff and families, I ask that we continue to enforce these measures in schools: masks, cleanliness, distancing as best as possible, and also outside of school. We are all in this together, so the choices we all make in our personal lives impact our colleagues and our families. Also, families, if you can, if your students are learning virtually and it's working for you, please keep your students at home. Help us with the reduction of numbers and the distancing in our schools. We're all in this together, and we will get to the other side of it. We will, and we want to do so in the very best way that we can. I'm going to close my remarks by saying thank you. Thank you to our teachers, our support staff, our administration. Thank you, Ms. Copeland, Ms. Suarez, Ms. Conley, Ms. Flippin, Ms. Subson, Ms. Dawson, Ms. Gramlich, Ms. Mauger, Ms. Macon, Ms. Patzold, all the teachers that have taught and are teaching my children, who for me represent the exponential. I am so grateful for you. Thank you. Finally, as a military veteran who's engaged in national tasking, who may have at one point in their career been considered a frontline worker, I say that yes, our teachers are frontline heroes who serve their students, families, and communities daily. Yes, teachers are essential workers, and yes, I vote that we sign this letter to our governor to say so and to advocate for their prioritization. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. While you were speaking, Ms. Hine, I saw board members shaking their heads in agreement with much of what you were saying, if not all of what you were saying. And I think that on many cases, you are speaking for the whole board in how important we think our frontline workers are, and how important our employees are, and how important it is that we keep them healthy and safe as well as our students. So thank you very much. In addition to the letter that went out from FADS, Florida School Boards Association wrote a letter also supporting the prioritization of the vaccines. So both superintendents and school boards are working together very, very closely on this item. And so to move this forward is just us saying, yes, we do agree, we approve, and here's just another set of voices saying this is important to us and to our entire district. So, Mr. Dudley?
Madam Chair, in addition to school boards and superintendents associations, I think the 67 school districts all have teacher unions or whatever. I think they all need to be participating in that also. And there's nothing wrong with flooding the airwaves with emails. It's kind of politicians in those places and those decision-making, they really do pay attention to that stuff. And if you don't have a whole lot of interaction with them and they just take for granted that everything is good, status quo, what I've done is right. But if you keep on them and flooding their email boxes and so forth with your concerns, make it a unified effort and do it. And I think it will make a difference. People have changed their minds, and I think it can be done here. We just look at our county. We're looking at 95,000 plus students. We're looking at over 7,000, educators. And if we all take our, I know we do it as a group, but that's wrong with you doing it as an individual also. And I think that make the server crash. I guess I think this is very, very important. My wife is a teacher in public schools, and by the grace of God, we're doing okay. She's a high school teacher, and she's had students that have had the COVID, but she's, knock on wood, is still good, and it's a concern. And I think we have every right to do it. There are some issues with the distribution. That's not our fault, and we need to make our voice heard. And that's,
thank you.
I think the more people who do it, the better it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right, with that, you're looking at me, Mrs. Edmond. Are you wanting to speak? All right, yes.
To say has already been said, but I think it's important that we collectively as a board send this letter to Governor DeSantis We all have received emails from educators and as well as parents regarding the safety measures that may be occurring or not occurring in our schools. It is our responsibility to ensure the safety of our both students and personnel. So again, I am happy to support this one measure if it gets supported by our governor that will assist all of our personnel, whether they're support professionals, principals, or teachers, ensuring that they have one measure of added safety. As Ms. Hines mentioned, as it relates to social distancing and level 1s and level 2s, we do need to be innovative with the measures that we move forward with because people are scared. Again, thank you to the board for crafting this letter together. I again feel that it sends a strong message to the governor that collectively we are on top of this. Thank you.
Good, thank you. All right. All right. I see no other requests to speak, so I'm going to move forward. We have a motion by Mrs. Kane and a second by Mrs. Edmond to approve a letter supporting statewide prioritization of the school district employee for COVID-19 vaccination distribution. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed, say no. And it passes unanimously with a 6-0. We'll move to our next item, which is to the adoption of the proposed Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards 2021 legislative program. Do we have a motion? Okay, Mr. Dudley, and do we have a second? All right, Ms. Kane. And since this is not an item brought forward by the district, I'm going to present this one in the absence of Mrs. Long, our legislative chair. The Greater Florida Consortium is an organization to which we belong, and it is made up of 11 of the coastal districts, coastal counties through the state of Florida. We represent over 40% of the students. And each year we get together and come up with a legislative platform, just as we do our personal one and FSBA. This one has been brought forward for us to vote on. The difference with this is, in order for items to continue to appear on the platform, this is a draft and a proposed platform, in order for them to continue to appear, every single school district must approve it. If there is an item on there that every school district does not approve, it will be taken off. For example, if our county, I'll just use us, our county says that one of the items is not something we can support, we would say we passed everything else except this item, and it would not appear on the final document. The others, it's not a majority of how many of the 11 districts, it's all or nothing. Okay, so we have the documents that were sent to you, gosh, I think before the break, and then on our agenda as well. So we will vote on it as a whole document unless there are things that people would like to pull. So with that, I will now open this up for board discussion. Is there any discussion? Okay. All right. Well, we have a motion and a second. A motion by Mr. Dudley and a second by Mrs. Kane to adopt the proposed Greater Florida Consortium School Board 2021 legislative program. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed say no. And it passes 6-0 also. We will be getting some feedback after all of the districts have turned in their final vote, and then we will know what our official platform will be. So we'll be looking for that in the future. All right, we will move on to items introduced by the superintendent. Dr. Grego.
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members. My first item, I think, is as newsworthy as anything else, and that is our graduation rates. We're presented to each and every district in the state of Florida, and it gives me great pleasure as I introduced it to you in writing, but now in public, that we have a 91.5% graduation rate. When we started this journey together, it's ironic, but it was 71.5 or 2 or in that area. And I expressed to this board that that in due time we were going to get our graduation rate over 90%, and here we are. And so it is a crossing of some level of a threshold in our schools and our principals. And I couldn't be more proud of the collective work, because this is not a high school graduation, this is a district graduation. And the ability of our elementary to support middle, and middle to support high school, and high school all the way those 4 years. It is a cohort. We understand how the calculation is made, but really the strength of obtaining a 90+ graduation rate is a pre-K through 12 mission. So thank you very much. Thank you. There's so many people to thank. Dr. Vasquez takes ownership of this as the executive director of senior high schools, but there are a lot of players, but she does keep us in bounds and keeps us going, keeps us moving. One of the things I'm most grateful about in terms of the progress that we've made is our black graduation rate this year is at 85.5. That gap is reduced from 18 percentage points to 7.2. We started this journey, it was in the mid-50s, 56 to be exact, which is totally unacceptable. And so the progress that we're making in our black graduation rate is also goal 1 of our Bridging the Gap plan. In addition to that, I want to speak very highly and congratulate our Hispanic subpopulation as a higher graduation rate than our overall graduation rate, which we saw coming several years ago. It's at 92.5%. Our English learners graduation rate is at 91.9%. There's a lot of very, very good news. Our ESE graduation rate is over 81, 82%. So we have a lot to continue to push with, where the work is never over. And that's the beautiful thing about this particular statistic. But in the press release, I was so pleased that we also talked about the advanced level classes, the honors level classes. And when we talked about a very healthy conversation about gifted instruction. In middle schools, the increase in honors level enrollment, and we have our pre-AP starting, our AP enrollment, our dual enrollment, our Cambridge ACE program, all of these things that we always say the rising tide lifts boats. And so all of a sudden, all of these graduation rate isn't just an isolated statistic, but rather it's the process and the progress of all of these elements put together that are really a culmination of that. It is the one statistic that districts are most noted for. When we compared, and I shared with you the 10 largest school districts in the state of Florida, we are not tied, but we're number 1 on that with a 91.5%. So thank you to this board. Thank you to the entire staff, our principals I've met with. I sent the congratulations letter to every single employee. I believe firmly that this is all of us own this statistic. Our bus drivers, our food service workers, our staff, support staff, assistant teachers, I mean, everyone owns this statistic, because it's a culmination of what we do in 13 years from kindergarten, and really more with pre-K all the way through grade 12. So thank you so much, and it's a pleasure. And I hope this thing, it didn't get as much press. I mean, maybe there's so much going on in the world that we're not focused too much. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but maybe a little bit. Is that this is big news, and in terms of having a district reach over 90%. And the standards for graduation are not going down, by the way. They continue to increase. So, as you saw on the video today, I'm not going to repeat it, but Tutron, who is going to represent us, and he'll do a great job of representing all the support employees. And as I mentioned during that virtual, this district has won several times, probably overrepresented in terms of our finalists, but never overrepresented, I should say. We have fine support staff, so thank you for, and even though it was a virtual meeting, we literally had hundreds of people in attendance. One of the beauties of the virtual meetings is that we have more and more people able to see the celebration than if we really restricted its participation. Also, I'm really in tune, especially during these days and times and the things we're going through, to not lose sight of our students' accomplishments. And many times during the board meetings, it's easy to go to COVID issues and other issues. And we forget sometimes of the accomplishments of our students and tens of thousands of students who are working, and our teachers who are working every day. So I'm going to make it a point every single board meeting to not lose sight of those things. So a seventh grader at Clearwater Fundamental Middle School, her artwork chosen for the state exhibit, Eva Kohler. And the artwork is entitled Beach Fun. And this is a winner of the 2021 Art in the Capital competition. And this individual, along with her teacher, Karen Santangelo, had the opportunity to meet State Representative Nick DeSigli and deliver the artwork to his office. And her artwork will continue to be displayed. As I mentioned even yesterday at the 10-year celebration at the Dali Museum, when our students' artwork is displayed, over 100 pieces of art is displayed at the Dali every year. Our students really cherish that. Even as you walk around this building, you see this is all student artwork. This is not purchased artwork. This represents their work. So congratulations to Eva. The Journey in Journalism's program, a gem, not hidden, but a gem. I want to congratulate each and all of those students and the teachers. Midtown and Beyond exhibit opening on Friday. There was also a virtual poetry slam, a second Saturday artwork, and the very next day. And Through Our Eyes, Midtown and Beyond exhibit showcased photos, multimedia and newspaper pieces created by scholars in the Journey for Journalism program, which includes 3 schools: Melrose Elementary School, Johns Hopkins Middle School, and Lakewood High School. And their publications are second to none. Even Johns Hopkins, I think, is a better publication than many of the university's publications out there. Certainly Lakewood's publication is. They send it to me every single time, and I read it from cover to cover. It is very, very thought-provoking, very, very well done. And so thank you to Studio 620 for downtown St. Petersburg for supporting the Journey in Journalism's program, and for many students who have their work displayed there. We also had a winner, the United States District Court Middle District of Florida 2020 essay contest winners and finalists. And I want to congratulate Han Neum from St. Petersburg High School, a winner of first place of the United States District Court Middle District of Florida 2020 high school essay contest. This first place, Han will receive a certificate, $2,000, and the opportunity to spend a day shadowing a federal judge. And Han's teacher, Karen Tash, will also receive a classroom grant of $500. We have other winners throughout our district too. In fact, St. Petersburg High School was the school with the most submitted applicants to this contest, and received another $100. So congratulations, Principal Lebo, for your participation. But we've had schools throughout our district truly excel in this area. I will be, just to give you on notice, I will be traveling to Tallahassee. I'm not staying, I'm staying safe, but I will be traveling tomorrow. There's just a very small budget meeting that it will be looking at the CARES Act, and I want to thank Kevin Smith for helping prepare me, but really the CARES Act, the first one, and then hopefully the second wave of that, how districts are spending the CARES Act, what we need for, and I'm very proud to represent the effective expenditure of the CARES Act in Pinellas County and educate those who will be going into session in the very near future. So plenty of windshield time if you need to talk to me, but there will be meeting with them from 3 to 6 tomorrow, and I hope it should be a very productive meeting. I want to make a couple of quick comments, but very serious comments about social media threats. As you know, last Sunday evening, I want to thank Chief Williams for his diligence and his work, working with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, investigated the threat. That it was determined to be not legitimate, but at that time we take every single threat seriously. My message today to students and to parents is that this is no joke. We stated this a few years ago after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, that this is absolutely no joke, and that every threat will be investigated thoroughly, day and night, weekend, anytime, and know that when you're making this, it will be taken seriously. And anyone who makes a safety threat against a school on social media will be arrested and charged with a felony, as the student was yesterday. And a felony charge can certainly, without doubt, have long-lasting impacts on a person's future in the military service, college acceptance, employment, et cetera. So I'm pleading with parents is to talk with your students about the responsibility and the responsible social media use, and to encourage them to report safety threats, as this one was by a student. But as we stated a few years ago, and I hope it doesn't raise its head again, this is no joke, and you will be arrested. And I want to thank our law enforcement and our schools police for that. My last comment is this is our first board meeting since my heart ached, but the tragic passing of Clearwater High School's choral director, Rosemary Collins. I knew Rosemary, I know her, and I know the family very well from complications due to COVID-19. And Rosemary was a 1986 graduate of Countryside High School, where she starred in many theater productions such as The Music Man, Grease, and South Pacific. She began teaching in Pinellas County Schools in 1996 as a substitute teacher and became a full-time teacher in 2002 at an elementary school music teacher, then moved to Safety Harbor Middle School for many years, and then moved to Clearwater High School in 2018. She was a truly gifted vocalist and teacher, and was admired and loved by her students and peers and her colleagues. And she was also very active in her church community, serving as the choir director at Trinity Presbyterian in Clearwater. In fact, it was a funny thing when I was talking to her husband recently, Stan, I mentioned, you know, I knew you before I came here because you and Rosemary served as the music director at the church I attended. I remember just admiring your vocal and musical capabilities, and never knew that, you know, 6, 7, 10 years later, our paths would cross again. Stan is a terrific gentleman and man of marriage for 27 years. We talked for quite some time, and I will commit to continue to call him. He's such a pleasure. But we talked about his daughter, Lindsay, who's a senior at Florida State University. We talked about how she graduated from Palm Harbor University. She's a voice major. The family has tremendous talent. And we also talked about her son, Griffin, who I certainly know, who is a senior at Tarpon Springs High School and is very close to Kevin Ford and others. So there'll be a lot of people really supporting the family. One of the things Stan said to me, he said, I cannot believe the tremendous love and support of a family of this school district to our family has been endless, and he very much appreciates that. If you remember, those of you who saw the Hamilton Project I was able to visit it prior to the holidays. Griffin played Aaron Burr in the Hamilton Project and did a great job. And Rosemary also has a sister, Ann Adair, who is a teacher at Gibbs PCCA. And so it is a family affair, and I will continue to reach out and to say thank you very much. After his performance, it was ironic, but Griffin comes up to me and says, you know, one of the things Rosemary and Griffin did on a personal note in a story, you know, every year I have a special surprise, and I take our principals off to just to say thank you for the year. And I wanted to do something musically as a surprise to the principals. And what I did was I employed, and Gene Reynolds asked Rosemary, and Griffin was the one who sang this song. And so when this tragic event happened, every principal said, Griffin. He's the person. In fact, when I last saw him at Tarpon Springs, he said, when are we going to perform again, to the principals? So he is truly a talented performer. I will continue to reach out to the family, and I will continue to, as the arts community has, continue to support with the food chain, and Jean Reynolds, I talked with her the other day, and it's just continuing. Stan mentioned that it's unbelievable how much our district is more of a family than a district, and he very much appreciates and wanted me to share that with this board today. So as my heart breaks, we know that we will celebrate the memories of Rosemary Collins. That concludes my message. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I know were many comments and condolences that were sent. And it is heartbreaking anytime we lose an employee or a student in our district, and unfortunately it happens far too often. But we do appreciate their work and dedication, and our heart goes out, and we will continue to do whatever we can to support them. We have items introduced by the school board attorney. Good, thank you. Items introduced by the board. Do we have board members? If anyone have items that they want to bring forward? All right. I do now is the appropriate time to ask how we want to handle the workshop that was brought forward. We could discuss it during leadership discussion and our next workshop, and then decide if we want to move forward, and if so, with what requests. If everyone is comfortable with that, we will put it on the agenda for under leadership discussion. All right, we'll do that. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. Dr. Corbett, are there any requests?
Yeah, I had that one request for the potential workshop topic of the timing of universal gifted screening.
Okay. And it's not a workshop topic yet. It's going to be under leadership, so we'll discuss whether or not we move forward. Okay, good. All right. Our next item is the school board meeting evaluation. We will always conduct that after we officially adjourn the meeting and listen to our public participation. So if there is no objection, this meeting is adjourned. So we will now move to public participation. Mrs. Simonetti, do we have speakers?
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have 5 speakers under our general public comments. Our first speaker this morning is Courtney Schroeder.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. I am a terrible public speaker, so I do apologize. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Thank you for having me, and I really want to say thank you for reopening the schools. Our county, our state, given the fact that we did reopen the schools, obviously we have such low rates of suicide and crime within students because they are actively learning. They're back with their peers, so I do appreciate that. I appreciate all of the mitigation that you guys are doing. I don't agree with the masks. I wish that we would unmask our students as they are the least likely spreaders. I do understand fear, unfortunately, causes people to be nervous and make rash decisions, as we've seen this past week with the teacher who made the poor decision. I'm actually disappointed that the board did not make a statement on that here today. I understand that it's still in litigation as it just happened. However, I do think that it should be addressed. I hope that the board does not allow that teacher to come back. That's absolutely absurd that she did that to the most critical students of the school board. I mean, ESE students. It's completely a shame. Besides all of that, some of my particular issues in school recently have actually been behavioral issues on school buses. My students have been victims, unfortunately. My own children have been victims of what's happening on school buses. I have been in contact with our school, and I have even emailed Superintendent Grego. However, Superintendent Grego does not personally respond to emails. He has, I believe her name is Kathy, is the one who replies. I do wish, sir, that you would take a little bit more initiative and reach out to parents. My children have had hands put on them. Other students on the bus have had hands put on them. Children are violent. Elementary school students, an 8-year-old child. I wish that you would take more initiative. I don't know how often you visit schools, but I wish that you would take a walk around and see what some of these teachers are having to deal with, and especially bus drivers. If there is continued issues. I wish that there would be some kind of mitigation in order to give a driver an assistant, specifically for buses that are having multiple behavioral issues. I don't really have a whole ton to say. I will be back. I'll gather my thoughts next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
If before you leave,
Can you ask her to come back in? There you go.
before you leave, typically when I receive that, I find out the school and I give it to an area superintendent who directly oversees those. So I will look back, or if you want to share the school, and we have area superintendents sitting right behind you, so we can connect you with the area superintendent and get to the heart of your issue.
Do you
Either
feel
that or go
comfortable
back
sharing?
to Mrs. Wright, if you could raise your hand, and if you don't want to announce the school,
Yeah.
you could just talk to Mrs. Wright, if that's more comfortable. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nancy Velarde.
And we're still at good morning for you as well.
Good morning. As we approach the beginning of the second semester, I'm sure you're receiving as many fear-ridden emails as I've been. I have sent you a signed petition, and in that document, I referred to the Pinellas County positivity rate at hovering just under 11%. It is now between 13 and 14%. During this time, when the local numbers of cases are at an all-time high, we are being manipulated by the Governor and Commissioner of Education to bring even more students back to face-to-face learning into already crowded classrooms. Last week alone, we had 309 positive cases reported here in our system. The total for the school year prior to the winter break was 973. We have had almost the same number of cases in the last month. The fears in those emails are justified. While any educator, including myself, will concede that face-to-face learning is far superior to virtual learning, I believe the timing of this forced rescheduling is dangerous. In order to accommodate additional students in the classroom, many of our Category 1 teachers will be forced to return to the classroom as well. As you are aware, these are the educators who were initially given virtual positions because they are considered high risk due to conditions labeled comorbidities by the CDC. They should not be asked to enter full classrooms at this time. They were rightfully protected by you for the first semester, and they deserve to continue to be protected while they are performing their duties for the district. All of your employees deserve and are required to have a safe and healthy environment in which to work. And the children need a safe place to learn. Every medical expert will agree that the three main steps to protect oneself from contracting COVID-19 are wear a mask, social distance, and avoid large groups indoors. We have the mask policy, which has been relatively successful. We are working on maintaining some social distance in the classroom, although it will be less so with more children. And we need to make sure the groups inside those classrooms remain small. It is specifically stipulated in the emergency order that, and I quote, all educational providers take all appropriate action to promote the health, safety, welfare, and education of Florida students during this emergency. And also, I quote, flexibility is provided for in the order is necessary to respond to mitigate the impact of this emergency and promote the health, safety, and welfare of all persons connected with Florida's educational system. It is also delineated in the Florida Constitution that all final decisions about the local district lies in the hands of the local school board and superintendent, which would supersede the order. At this time,
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kristen Taylor.
Welcome.
Hi. My name is Kristen, and I have two kids in Pinellas County Schools. They're both in magnet programs in the gifted schools. Although I am highly critical of forced mask wearing, I have chosen to keep them in schools due to their 504 plans. My children can't be served equally online due to their unique learning situations that other kids. So we are in class wearing the diapers on our face. That being said, I'm very grateful that we have the option for in-person instruction, and I'm very thankful that you've given us that. And I'm thankful for my kids' teachers, and I know they bring a unique skill set to the table. Do you always, that when people are speaking, do you always like look down at your phone and not listen? That's rude. Okay. Anyway, I'd like to touch on the state of the schools right now. And what it's like. Obviously, everybody's heard about the Largo High School teacher, the kids that had the mask like drop down over the nose. She freaked out, sprayed them down. This is the kind of stress that teachers and kids are under at school. I was harassed when I walked into the building just about an hour ago because I was wearing a face shield. I have a medical exemption, but I don't bring it with me because nobody asks me. I shop with it all the time. Nobody asked me, but I was treated so rude. What's happened to the common decency and respect that we should show each other as humans? I brought a little picture for you. Who knows, like Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall? Remember that? We're all about the same age, like high school. All the kids going around, they're wearing their masks at school, and they have no personality. They can't interact with their teachers anymore because you can't see facial expressions. All you see are like little crinkles in your eyes. It's just pathetic. And the kids just cannot bond with their teachers this way. Now, I think you know that a large percentage of your constituents are very afraid of the virus, but there's a large percentage of your constituents that are not. And as you know, there's a lot of scientific data coming out right now saying that asymptomatic transmission is not a thing. It is not a thing. There's a large science, that's saying that if you go to the CDC website yourself, there's no greater deaths in 2020 than there were last year. Large percentage of your constituents believe that. And a lot of people are not afraid, and a lot of people want to get a good education. We can't get a good education online. You state that. So I ask that masks are a choice.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jeremy Kench.
We didn't say it. Jeremy, okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Jeremy. I'm returning again. I said I'm going to keep coming back to this place because I want something done. There's been no answers. I've been ran in circles. You've all had my number. I've left messages. And it's obviously been said by you blatantly that it's all right to attack a woman and a child for no God-given right. I mean, I thank the Lord for my patience right now because I am not who I used to be. Otherwise, I would be handling this differently, probably wrongly. Trying to do this the right way with the changes in my life, and I'm not getting any direction from anybody. Your charges have been dropped. You initially charged my wife with assaulting an officer, a felony, and 2 misdemeanors, and you decide to drop this felony and give it 2 different misdemeanors, a nonviolent. I mean, what right did you have to approach and attack my wife to begin with? Let it be to assault and take my daughter to the ground too, and then usher them to the streets with no parental discretion, telling them that the officers, they don't work here. They don't have to give the address or the phone number to me while they're on the phone with me so I can get here to take care of my family. I mean, I've been just rudely taken care of, man. You guys, there's no peace here. I'm not gonna be quiet. I keep telling you that. I mean, I'll keep coming to these things, making noise, and where is the respect? There's video, there's recording, there's audio. I have all of this. And this officer came up and said that he remembered her from last time was his reasoning for getting face-to-face, violating your 6-foot distance, and assaulting my small little female wife with her 2 children here. And there's been no punishment, no nothing, just a reduction of a fine and charges, and you want to offer us a $500 fine now instead of a felony charge? Pretty weak in my eyes. I'm not letting this go. I'm going to continue to keep talking to whatever attorneys and try to violate and fight this stuff. I mean, I can't call nobody here. My number, you got my number. I've been given nobody to communicate with to try to resolve this in any other manner. You guys still work. They're still here, still running their mouths. I don't get it. Stopping people at the doors and telling them you have to have your medical paperwork. That's a violation of HIPAA law. That poor woman, she had her shield on for her to be treated like that. I mean, there's no respect in this world anymore. You all want to ask DeSantis for all this stuff, but yet you violate DeSantis's meanings. Our body, our choice. I mean, if you can keep 6 feet, keep 6 feet. And masks are not mandatory. You're just control, and it's bullshit. I'm so frustrated. Nobody wants to talk about this. If I had attacked anybody else's wife or child, I would not be standing here. And your person still works at this building. I want some damn answers. I would love some phone calls, something from somebody other than rude people. Think it's okay to attack? Man, where's my right? Why can't I have a citizen's arrest? Or you're telling me that state police, city police, county police cannot come in here and press charges for me, that I have to deal with the school board. And I'm here trying to deal with you people, and nothing's being done or said about it. Happy New Year, 221. Y'all got happy. You didn't say nothing about taking care of this stuff yet.
Thank you.
Love to have a little help in this.
Our final speaker today is Sweet Gonzalez.
Welcome.
I'm a little short, sorry. Hello. So the first time I've ever been to one of these, or hello, my name is Sweet. The first time I've ever been to one of these meetings was the last meeting that I attended. And the only reason that I attended it was because of the altercation that happened on November 10th. What pulled on my heartstrings was the little girl who was 12 who got a sprained ankle from a full-grown man. And when I was here, I heard Superintendent Grego say that he did not know of what happened in that event. And that was, I believe it was about 31 days after the event, which further made me think of how many things are happening under this building that people don't know about or possibly aren't even investigating until 30 days later. It's been 60 days, and the video has been finally released so that the proper, I guess now, authorities and litigation can begin. But just like they've said, where's the common decency? At this point, we are all people. We all have kids. That's the reason why I'm here. I have 2 children. And I would like to think that if an officer had a mistake or did something that he didn't necessarily back or anything happened, because obviously a charge was removed from the official report. So obviously there was a change of mind somewhere, but still we don't have the decency of an officer responding to what he did to that child. And I hear you talk about taking threats very seriously, and every threat will be investigated. And I do understand that that was in regards to somebody who made a threat against an entire school. But in where we are as parents and educators, one life should be just as important as an entire building of school. Because just as you know, with police and people growing up, how your interactions are with them dictate how you grow up and how you live your life. And if you've got children that don't know that they can't come to the police for help, that influences how they grow up and how they think about the people around them that are trying to protect them. And we do understand that there are a lot of officers here that are trying to do the right thing and protect people. But we also know that we can't lump everybody in a group, just like we can't say all of the cops here are doing a great job, just like we can't say all of a specific anybody is doing anything with any label, good, bad, right, or wrong. We can never lump that many individuals together. But we do need oversight. We do need Luke Williams to at least investigate the officer who removed his claim of violence, because if an officer was actually battered, why would that be removed? That should be taken to the full extent of the law. But if an officer is lying about being battered, it should also be taken to the full extent of the law, because we give them a certain amount of power, and then we give you a certain amount of power as overseers of them to ensure that one life is being protected. above everything else, not just because it didn't go along with who they didn't want in the building that day. And that's what causes citizens to become concerned, is when they see small injustices like that. Nobody's saying it's a whole.
There are no further speakers today.
All right. Since there are no other speakers, that will end this portion of the meeting. Thank you very much.